What's going on, everybody? Lee Setzer here. Thanks for tuning into another video. And in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about shocks, specifically how I fill my shocks up with oil, how I bleed them, and what I'm looking for when the shock is all finished for the finished product. So I got my shocks here. They're ready to be filled up with oil. I got my nitro buggy here. So I'll bring you guys in for a closer look. I'll show you how to do it. I'll walk you through it, and let's get started. All right, so we got the shock apart, ready for oil. One thing I wanted to point out to you guys is that in this video, I am doing an Emulsion style shock here. So you can see I have the Emulsion style seal in here. Pretty much all the tracks that I race on or events that I go to, we always run an Emulsion style shock cap or shock. So this video is how to bleed the Emulsion style shock. I do plan on doing a video in the future on how to do bladders, but like I said, I don't really run bladders at all. Pretty much the entire time. Any track I go to, I always at least start with Emulsion, always pretty much end up on Emulsion. So anyway, just want to point that out to you guys. So we got our shock, we got the oil, shock's cleaned up, ready to go. So first thing I like to do, obviously, we're going to put the oil in the shock body here. Make sure the shaft is pulled all the way down to the bottom of the body. And I like to fill it up where it kind of starts to get, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's kind of got like a little cone, almost pretty flat on the top here. And you're just going to want to slowly push up and pull down and get all the air bubbles to the top of the shock. I usually do this about 4 to 5 times, just nice and easy. And there we go. So we got the oil in here. Next, I'll grab my shock stand. I like to put it on the shock stand, let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes or so. With Emulsion shocks, you don't really need to let all the air out because an Emulsion style shock mixes the air and the oil together. So there will always be air in this style of shock. So anyway, we'll let it sit for a few minutes. We'll come back. I'll show you how to bleed it. All right, so we got the shock sitting for about 3 to 4 minutes or so. Next thing I like to do is we'll take the shock, put it in our hand, we'll take our cap, and we will screw the cap on here. Make sure that the shaft still at this point is extended all the way down. We'll screw the cap on. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to put a wrench to it. I've always hand tightened my shock caps. You don't need to really put any force on that. So we got our cap on. We have our bleeder screw here, and you still want your shaft all the way down. So we'll take the bleeder screw out, put that to the side for a second. And some people have different ways of how they bleed the shock. This is just the way I do it. This is the way I've always done it. I like to tilt the shock at a little bit of an angle here, where the screw hole, as you can see here, the bleeder screw hole is facing out. So it's the highest point of the shock when you go to push the shaft up. And what you'll do is you'll slowly push the shaft down. You don't want to rush this. All the oil will fall out. And you can kind of see some oil starting to kind of fizz out a little bit. So I'll make sure the shaft is all the way down. Wipe off any excess oil. Keeping the shaft all the way down, I'll put the bleeder screw back in. And then I like to pump it a few times. So just kind of mimic, if you were on the track driving, just kind of mimic the shock action in your hand. And you'll notice I have a little bit of rebound here, which in an Emulsion style shock for me, I don't really want any rebound. So, and sometimes you won't have any rebound the first time you bleed it, but if you're in warm weather, hot weather, you're racing outside, over a period of time, the shocks can build pressure, right? So I do this thing, I call it a double bleed. So I'll take the screw out again after I've pumped the shock a few times. Keep it at that same angle, and I'll push it down slowly, and you can really start to see a lot more oil come out after you've kind of built a little bit of pressure here. Keeping it nice and slow until you get all the way down to the stroke of the shock. wipe off any of the excess oil, put the screw back in, and you will be good to go. And that's all I like to do in terms of bleeding the shock. And you'll see that I pretty much have a dead rebound shock. Now, you'll always have a little bit of the shaft kind of come out, mainly just because of the air boot. But most of the company's air boots will have little vent holes in it. Like Associated has 2 vent holes here on their boot. And that just keeps the air able to escape from the shock when it's working. So there you have it. You have a shock ready to go. That's the way I like to bleed it. And what I'm looking for is just make sure there's no rebound, right? Like I said, I mean, sometimes I see a lot of people bleed once. They go on the track and they're driving and they say the car starts to feel really weird after a few minutes. And most of the time, the first thing I think about or I look for is that just if they don't double bleed, I found that if I don't double bleed, that the shock can build pressure over a period of time. So that's why I always double bleed, no matter what. And then sometimes to add on to that, if you're out at a hot race outdoors, what I like to do if I'm building shocks out the track is I'll bleed it, I'll double bleed it, just like how I showed you guys, and I'll actually take all 4 of my shocks and I'll put them outside in the direct sunlight. And what this does is just builds heat into the shock. And if you notice you come back in about 10-15 minutes of your shock being outside, you will notice that there is some slight pressure in the shock. There you'll have more rebound, even though you double bled it. So like I said, if you're outside, it's really warm, it's really hot, I always like to take my shock off, especially in between qualifying rounds and stuff. Once you kind of got your car figured out with the package, I'll put it outside in the direct sunlight, let it sit for about 10-15 minutes, let the pressure build up, and then I'll bleed it again, and you should be good to go. So there we have it. We have a shock ready to go. We'll put the spring on, put the spring cup on, and there you got it. You got a shock ready to go on your car. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this helps you guys out next time you're changing some shock oil, some pistons, or just rebuilding your car for a practice day or race. Like I said, there's many different videos and ways that people bleed shocks, things they look for. This is just the things that I do when I'm prepping my cars, rebuilding shocks, whatever the case may be. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Let me know how you guys do it. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.